For today, playing Alan Wake 2 and with the ROG Ally, and we'll start it up at 1080p at the lowest settings. Here we go with that. Again, 1080p, no FSR, it's running a native, and at the lowest settings. There we go. I've done a video on this already when I was doing the Steam Deck versus the Ally video, where I was going over the more intensive 2023 games. And this was of course a part of it. And yeah, so far we're sitting in the low 20s, and we're playing a native of course, no FSR yet, and at 1080p. This game looks fantastic, it is super sharp, even though we are playing at the low settings. Let's go to the lake, see how we go. It should fall below 20 probably at this point. And then I'm going to go back out, enable FSR, probably use the performance preset to begin with, and go from there. We are below 20 FPS here, around 18, 17. I mean, it's not great of course, but we are pushing the Ally extremely hard right here. Can't use FSR, and we're playing at the highest resolution that it can support. So yeah, not surprised here guys. But I think on the Steam Deck it plays at 25 to 30 FPS at 720p with the lowest settings and the highest FSR preset, which gives you the most performance of course. So not too bad. The game does stutter occasionally, but it's playing mostly well. I think though, with the new Ally X, or whatever it's called, it will do far better, because it has 32 gigs versus the 16 here. I said 32, but I meant 24 gigs. So you can share 8 gigs for the GPU and 16 for the rest of the system. Alright, time for FSR. Let's go ahead and bring this down to performance and try it again. I'm quite excited. This game is getting a physical release in like 2 months on PS5 and Xbox Series X, which is awesome. On the PS5 it will have the full game as well as the first DLC on the actual disc, which is amazing. This game is a straight up 10 out of 10 for me, or I guess a 9 out of 10, and having it on disc is just super exciting for me. On Series X though, it's a partial disc. It won't have the full game on it, which, I mean, come on, that's kind of worthless. But I guess lastly, the Steam version probably won't happen because this game was funded by Epic. So it might be on Epic forever pretty much, which always sucks. And yeah, back into the lake, and we are sitting in the low 30s here. In the last section, in the town, it was mostly playable as well, in the high 20s basically. It felt fine to me. So already, it's pretty good. And looking at the graphics guys on the built-in screen, it looks fantastic. It is still very sharp. So for me, this is pretty good already. I think we have more headroom of course to play at a lower resolution and get more frames, because again our GPU is fully maxed out here. But that will come in a second. Falling into the high 20s there for a second, around 27 FPS. And the game did stutter for a little bit. But for me overall, it's very much playable. Oh, an extra thing as well. Like 2 days ago I was on TikTok and I saw a video of someone going over the collector's edition of the first Alan Wake on the 360, and it was freaking sweet. It comes with a book, like an actual book, the bonus discs, the soundtrack, and the game itself. And I looked on eBay, and there was one guy selling it for 20 bucks, the full set, completed. And I had to buy it. The first game is awesome, I loved it. I had it on PC, or I have it on PC, and having it on physical as well is definitely worth it. Because on PS4 or PS5, it's kind of hard to find, and it sells for like 40 bucks. And it's just the disc, it doesn't come with any extras. So, I mean, I buy it for 360, has the book and the bonus discs. That's a way better deal in my opinion. And yeah, one final checkup. It does fall down into the high 20s and the mid 20s, but again for me, it's mostly playable. I think ideally though, for the Ally, it's best to play at a low resolution and get extra frames that way. Okay, let's pause it here guys. Back out, play at 900p, and try it again. And playing at 900p, same settings and balanced FSR. Alright, 900p, let's see how we go, but already doing much better at the station. For the graphics, it looks a bit worse of course, it's not as good as before, but for me, it's definitely sharp enough, and it looks pretty good, so not really an issue there for me. And FPS wise now, in the mid 30s, that's pretty good. I think a stable 30 is definitely the way to go for this game. You can try to get 40 if you really want to, but at that point you're playing at 720p probably, and most likely it won't be stable at all. Alright, first section is very much playable now, in the mid 30s of course. head to the lake, and see how we go there. Alright, back in here again, and yep, just barely at 30. If we can get the high 20s and the low 30s, that's fine by me. Not really too strict on that 30 FPS mark. But yeah, so far it's playing pretty well. I don't really have an issue with it. On the Steam Deck though, it had stuttering issues in, I guess, New York, in that section. Because that area has heaps of enemies that spawn in. And the Steam Deck was having a hard time. And New York, 30 FPS as well. But the GPU is now sitting at around 90% instead of being maxed out like at the lake. So again, that bottleneck here is the CPU most likely. But so far I can't really feel any stutters. It's feeling pretty good. I think already at 30 watts this is perfect. It's 900p, so it looks good. And balanced FSR, so it's not super aggressive. If you are playing on a TV though, or a bigger screen, it won't look perfect of course. It will have some issues. For example, it will look low res in some areas. But even then, I think it should be fine. So yeah, let's back out guys, play at 15 watts, and try it again. Alright, 15 watts and yeah, 20 FPS. So I'm not surprised. Let's pause it here though, and I'm gonna go ahead and increase FSR a bit higher, so we can have a chance at 30 FPS here. Let's go with the max Ultra Performance. There we go, 30 FPS. On the Steam Deck, it was running at 720p with the same settings, and it honestly looked pretty decent. It's a smaller screen, so you can get away with more. And to be honest, it doesn't look that bad. If you're in motion, it does fall apart a little bit. The image does like get pixelated and blur out, as you can see right here. I think ideally though, for me, I'm using a power bank to play at 30 watts or 25 watts instead of 15. But if you can't do that, and you want to play Allan 2, this might be a decent way. Now at the lake, sitting in the mid to high 20s. And yeah, in New York, the game starts to stutter the same way as the Steam Deck. The stuttering is pretty crazy. It isn't unplayable, I would say, but again, not the most ideal way to play it. And for the FPS, in the mid to high 20s like before. And the GPU at 90% usage. Alright, 30 watts, 720p. We're going for the max performance here. And yeah, sitting in the 40s now. It's around 43 FPS. And the GPU at around 87% usage. So a decent FPS bump, surprisingly. A bottleneck wasn't really the CPU in this situation. But we are running at 40 watts. So I might give it a second for it to come down. And we can see if the FPS falls down again. Yeah, 30 watts now. And the FPS is unchanged. Still sitting in the 40s. 40 watt mode is pretty worthless. It's like the same performance pretty much as 30 watts. A bit faster maybe, but just not really worth it with how much or how hot the Ally gets. 30 watts we're sitting at 77 degrees, normally even lower than that, like 70C. And at 40 watts we're sitting at 90C. At the lake we're sitting in the 40s still, wow. I'm honestly shocked with how good it's running now. It seems to be a pretty stable 40, but I would say that during fights, it should fall below this. So now the question is, do you care about the quality or performance? Because at 900p, it looks much better, far sharper, but you're getting 30 FPS. At 720p lowest settings, the image smears, doesn't look great, but the FPS is far more stable in the high 30s and the low 40s. So it's really up to you. For me, I'm going 30 FPS and 900p, but you do what you like. And New York, again about the same. It's the mid 30s and the high 30s up into the low 40s. Can't really feel any stutters, the game feels pretty good, it's very smooth. So yeah, no complaints for me, to be honest. And lastly, 15 watts. We are sitting in the mid 20s, GPU at 80% usage, going up into the high 20s. Can feel some stutters here, to be honest. It isn't the smoothest, so it's honestly questionable. Yeah, 23 to 25 FPS on average here. At the lake, should be pretty similar, or even better actually, let's see. And at the lake, we're sitting in the mid 20s and the high 20s at times. So yeah, I think 720p isn't really that worth it for 15 watts, because most of the time our GPU is holding us back. And you might as well use that extra GPU headroom and play at 900p instead. Okay, that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Next video. See you guys there.